Most people will never know a product is gone until they are standing in an empty aisle, wallet out, completely out of luck. Right now, in 2026, there are products quietly vanishing from shelves across North America, not because they failed, not because something better replaced them, but because of regulations, economics, lawsuits, and supply chain decisions made in boardrooms you will never hear about. These are not the products making headlines. The mainstream panic-buying crowd is chasing the wrong things entirely. While everyone scrambles for bottled water and canned beans, the real gaps are forming in places almost nobody is watching. Over the past several years, tracking retail cycles, supply chains, and distributor patterns has become almost an obsession. What has become clear is this: the most valuable items are always the quiet ones. The ones with no fan base, no viral unboxing videos, no influencer sponsor deals. They just sit on shelves doing their job until one day they do not. And by the time the average person figures that out, the price is tripled on secondary markets and real stock is long gone. Today, 14 specific products get covered in full detail: what they are, why they are disappearing, where you can still find them this week, and what to do about it right now. Some of these will feel completely random at first, but stay with it, because once the supply chain logic behind each one gets explained, it will make total sense. And number 9 is the one that is going to make you get up mid-video. The first product sounds like something only farmers care about, but once the reasoning gets laid out, you'll understand why it belongs in every vehicle, every workshop, and every emergency kit in the country. Certain professional-grade hemostatic powders, specifically the aluminum-based formulations sold through agricultural and veterinary supply channels, are in their final production run. These are not the cute little pet first aid products at big box stores. These are the heavy-duty wound care powders that ranchers and livestock handlers have relied on for decades. The manufacturer supplying the majority of North American distributors is shutting down its legacy production line and converting entirely to a prescription-based model. Final order shipped in early February. After that transition is complete, accessing this product means going through a licensed veterinarian and paying roughly triple the current price. Here's what makes this one matter for everyone, not just people who work with animals. This powder stops bleeding faster than almost anything available without a prescription for humans. Think about what that means in a real emergency: a deep laceration, a puncture wound, an accident in a workshop or a garage. Standard bandages apply pressure, but do not stop active bleeding the way a hemostatic powder does. The fancy clotting gauze sold at tactical supply stores runs $60 to $70 for a single pack. This powder costs around $18 for a 12-ounce bottle at farm supply retailers. Same core active ingredient, dramatically different price point. And because it's never been marketed to the general public as a first aid product, it sits completely untouched while people clear out the pharmacy aisles. Tractor Supply, Fleet Farm, and similar agricultural retailers still have stock right now. 2 bottles minimum is the recommendation. This is the kind of item where once the supply is gone, the only option left is paying a premium through veterinarian channels or accepting a significantly inferior substitute. Is there anything more frustrating than finding out a product you relied on was discontinued 6 months ago and you missed your window entirely? That is exactly the situation this information is designed to prevent. The second product on the list involves lighting, and this one has a specific angle that most people completely miss. Rough service incandescent bulbs are entering their final production phase. These are not standard household incandescents. These are heavy-duty filament bulbs built for industrial environments, garages, construction sites, and anywhere vibration, impact, and temperature extremes are constant. One major domestic manufacturer has already confirmed it is ceasing production in spring of 2026 due to tightening efficiency regulations, and final bulk orders are being placed by distributors right now. Here's the part that gets overlooked. LED bulbs have a significant weakness that the marketing never mentions. Their internal electronic driver components are sensitive to power fluctuations. During grid instability, whether from a severe storm, a regional outage, or infrastructure cycling on and off, LEDs often flicker, dim, or fail outright. Rough service incandescent bulbs have no electronic components. They handle voltage swings without complaint.
In areas where grid reliability is uncertain, this is not a minor distinction. It is the difference between having light and not having light when it matters most. Industrial electrical suppliers and specialty hardware stores still carry these. A pack of 600-watt bulbs runs about $16. Compare that to what these will cost once manufacturers stop making them entirely. Most buyers have never heard the term rough service, which means these sit untouched on shelves right now. That invisibility is the advantage for anyone paying attention. The third item is one that surprises people because it seems like something that would always be available. Plain, cast-iron Olympic barbell plates in specific weight denominations. Not rubber-coated, not competition bumper plates, the straightforward cast-iron variety in odd sizes like 2.5 pounds, 35s, and certain 45s from specific manufacturers. Why are they disappearing? Pure economics. Raw iron costs have made lower demand plate sizes unprofitable to produce. Multiple manufacturers are cutting these SKUs from their lines and redirecting production toward coated plates and adjustable systems that move faster off shelves. Regional sports equipment warehouses have been liquidating odd-weight iron stock since early this year, and reorders are not being placed. Now, here is the thing that most people never consider. Cast iron plates are some of the most useful heavy objects a person can own outside of any fitness context. Weighting down tarps during windstorms, anchoring emergency shelters or tents in high wind, temporary ballast for unstable structures, doorstops with actual thermal mass, uses that no kettlebell or sandbag handles the same way because of the geometry and the durability. A pair of 25-pound iron plates runs about $40 right now at used sporting goods stores or local gym sales. In 5 years, expect to pay double on the secondary market. The fitness world has moved on to fancier equipment, and that is exactly why these are still findable today. What else is getting quietly erased from the market without any announcement? Quite a bit, and the next one goes back further than most people expect. The fourth product is one that older generations will immediately recognize and younger people have largely never encountered. Traditional iodine tincture. Not the diluted povidone iodine solution, not the brand name antiseptic scrub. The original dark brown 7% iodine tincture in a glass bottle with an applicator. The FDA is not issuing a direct ban, but new labeling requirements combined with increasing liability exposure have led most remaining manufacturers to pull this formulation from general retail distribution. Final production runs are finishing up this quarter, and once those are gone, finding traditional iodine tincture will mean specialty sourcing at significantly higher cost. Here is why this matters. Traditional iodine tincture is one of the broadest spectrum topical antiseptics that has ever existed. It kills bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protozoans on contact, not by creating a barrier, by direct chemical action. The modern shift to antibiotic ointments, while useful, does not work the same way. Antibiotic ointments inhibit bacterial growth, but do not kill on contact, and repeated reliance on them creates conditions for resistance over time. Iodine does not have that problem. It works immediately, it dries, and it leaves a visible treated area so you can see exactly where it was applied. For minor wounds, cuts, punctures, and surface infections, traditional iodine is faster and more decisive than anything else available without a prescription. Pharmacies and some online medical suppliers still carry it. Buy multiple bottles. This is a product where the window to act is genuinely short, and the substitute options are all meaningful steps down in effectiveness. Speaking of things that used to be everywhere and are now quietly disappearing, here is one that affects a specific but important use case that almost nobody plans for in advance. The fifth product is a specific type of mechanical seal and O-ring set for older hand-operated water pumps. Not the electrical kind, the manual hand pump well and emergency water systems that have been used in rural and off-grid settings for generations. Several manufacturers that have kept legacy seal kits in production are quietly ending those lines because demand does not justify continued tooling costs. Why does this matter? Because millions of older manual water systems are still in the ground and still functional, and the only thing that stands between a working pump and a useless one is a set of rubber seals. When those seals wear out, which they do over time, you need the exact size and durometer rating for your specific pump model. Generic substitutes often do not seat correct.
And if you cannot get the right seal, a pump that has worked reliably for 30 years becomes scrap metal. Agricultural supply stores and specialty well supply retailers still carry these kits for common pump models. If you have a hand pump on your property, or if you have any intention of ever installing one, find the model number and order a complete seal kit right now. The cost is usually between $10 and $25. The alternative is a non-functional water source in an emergency with no replacement parts available anywhere. Does it seem like a small detail? It always does, right up until the moment it is not. The sixth product on this list is something that millions of people use every week and have never once thought about losing access to. Specific blade refills for older model utility knives. The heavy-duty snap-off variety and fixed blade inserts that fit handle designs that have been on the market since the early 2000s. Manufacturers are consolidating their blade SKUs. The less popular sizes are being discontinued in favor of the highest volume standard sizes. A knife handle from 2005 might take a blade that is fractionally different in width or thickness from the current standard. Not enough to be obvious, just enough to make the modern replacement a poor fit. Here is the brutal reality of this situation. An incompatible blade turns a perfectly functional tool into a paperweight. And most people do not realize their knife takes a discontinued blade size until they are in the middle of a project, needing to swap blades and finding nothing on the shelf that fits. A pack of 50 compatible blades costs around $9 right now at smaller regional hardware stores and some online retailers. The big box stores have already begun clearing discontinued sizes from their inventory. If you use a utility knife regularly, check the blade specifications today. If your model uses anything other than the most current standard size, buy enough blades to last several years. It is $9 to future-proof a tool you probably use constantly. There is a pattern here worth noticing. Most of the items on this list are not going away because of demand failure. They're going away because of corporate efficiency decisions, regulatory pressure, or liability concerns. The product still works, people still need it, but the economics of producing it no longer align with what a major manufacturer needs to justify continued investment. The seventh product is one that anyone who works outdoors in cold climates will immediately understand. Cold weather rated flexible conduit and certain weatherproof cable management systems designed for temperatures below -20 Fahrenheit. Standard flexible conduit gets brittle in extreme cold. The cold-rated versions use a polymer compound that maintains flexibility even in deep freeze conditions. Several manufacturers are eliminating low-volume cold-rated SKUs as they streamline production. Electricians and contractors working in northern climates know this product well, but most homeowners have never had a reason to learn about it. Why should anyone outside of a northern climate care? Because flexible conduit is one of the most useful materials for emergency electrical repair, generator hookups, temporary power runs, and improvised infrastructure. Having a supply of it on hand means the difference between a functional setup and a dangerous one. Electrical supply houses in cold climate regions still stock these. Prices vary by length and diameter, but are still at pre-shortage levels. Once production ends and the distributor inventory clears out, finding cold-rated conduit in a hurry during a winter emergency will be extremely difficult. Buy a reasonable supply now. The shelf life of the material is essentially indefinite when stored indoors. How many of these have already rung a bell? There are still several more to get through, and some of the remaining ones are going to feel much more immediate. The eighth product is one that every vehicle owner should hear about.
Certain sealed beam headlight bulbs in specific sizes for older vehicles, specifically the round and rectangular form factors used for trucks and utility vehicles manufactured before the mid-1990s. Automotive parts suppliers have been steadily narrowing their inventory of these bulbs as the vehicle population that requires them shrinks. Final stocking decisions at major retail chains are happening now. Here is what most people do not consider. There are millions of older trucks, tractors, generators, and utility vehicles still in active service. These machines do not need seal beams every week, but when a bulb fails, the need is immediate, and if the nearest parts store has stopped carrying that size, the options drop to either ordering online and waiting or driving without working headlights. A sealed beam in the correct size currently runs between $8 and $20 depending on wattage and form factor. These are not expensive, they are not glamorous, they are simply functional. And in a situation where a vehicle needs to operate at night and the headlight goes out, having the right replacement on hand is the difference between continuing and stopping. Check what sealed beams your older vehicles use and buy 2 sets for each. Store them in the vehicle. The shelf life is essentially unlimited. Number 9 is the one that was mentioned at the very beginning, and here it is. Over-the-counter hydrocortisone cream in concentrations above 1%. The FDA is not eliminating these products entirely. What is happening is a reclassification that moves anything above 1% concentration into prescription-only status, beginning mid-2026. Right now, 1% tubes are still available at any drugstore for around $6, but in independent pharmacies, overstock retailers, and grocery clearance sections, there is still remaining inventory of higher concentration formulations from before the reclassification was finalized. Why does concentration matter? Because higher concentrations work faster and more decisively for severe skin reactions, significant allergic contact reactions, deep poison ivy exposure, serious insect sting responses. A 1.5% formulation can provide meaningful relief in 10 to 15 minutes for a reaction that a 1% cream might barely touch. After reclassification, getting anything above 1% means scheduling a doctor visit, receiving a prescription, and paying the associated costs. That changes both the access and the expense involved dramatically. The solution is straightforward. Read the label when purchasing hydrocortisone cream. Most buyers do not check the concentration. They grab the familiar tube without looking. That habit leaves the higher concentration stock sitting untouched for buyers who pay attention. If you find any tube labeled above 1%, buy it now. The window is genuinely limited. Here is a question worth sitting with. What percentage of products you rely on daily are one corporate decision, one regulatory change, or one supplier shutdown away from disappearing permanently? The answer might be more uncomfortable than expected. The 10th product involves something almost every person who cooks at home cares about, but rarely stockpiles strategically: canned butter. Real, shelf-stable butter in a sealed tin, not powdered butter substitute, not clarified ghee in a jar. Actual butter, canned and shelf-stable, with a years-long storage life. Brands producing these products are shutting down lines as the canning process costs have become unsustainable at current butter prices and at the volume these niche products move. Remaining inventory is clearing out, and replenishment is not occurring at most retailers. The case for this product is straightforward. Open a properly stored can, and the butter inside tastes like fresh butter. Use it exactly as regular butter in cooking, baking, or spreading. No refrigeration required until after opening. For anyone building a serious food storage system, real butter is one of the harder items to address because freeze-dried alternatives do not replicate the flavor or function with any real accuracy. Canned butter solves that problem completely, and once it is gone from the market, there is no modern equivalent that works the same way. A single can runs about $9 at Preparedness retailers and some online suppliers. Buy a case while it is still available.
The 11th item is a lighting product that is being phased out for efficiency compliance reasons and has a specific performance advantage that its replacement technology does not match. Compact fluorescent bulbs in certain wattage ranges are being discontinued across the board as new efficiency mandates make continued CFL production economically non-viable for manufacturers. LED production is more profitable and compliant, so CFL lines are closing by late 2026. Here is what the LED marketing does not address. In cold temperatures, LEDs underperform significantly. The electronic driver components inside LED bulbs are sensitive to cold. In an unheated garage or outdoor fixture in winter, many LED bulbs produce noticeably reduced output until the temperature rises. CFL bulbs do not have this issue. They also do not have the complex internal electronics that fail in LEDs. A well-made CFL that has been running since 2017 is still running. A cheap LED from the same year is long gone. A 4-pack of 23-watt CFLs costs about $8 at hardware stores right now. Stock is still available because most consumers shifted to LED years ago and forgot these exist.
A case of these bought today will last years and will outperform LEDs in every cold or unheated application. Buy them before the manufacturing window closes completely. The 12th product is a battery size, not a chemistry or a brand, a physical size. D-cell alkaline batteries from major manufacturers are being pushed out of mainstream retail inventory. Stores are shrinking shelf space for them as rechargeable lithium alternatives become more profitable to stock. The major warehouse club chains that once offered bulk D-cell pricing are reducing their orders. Why does this matter? Because a significant amount of essential gear still runs on D-cell alkaline batteries. Full-size emergency flashlights, weather band radios, portable lanterns, the kind of equipment designed to work when infrastructure fails. Rechargeable systems are excellent under normal conditions. Under emergency conditions, when grid power is unavailable for an extended period, alkaline batteries that have been sitting in a drawer for 2 years are more reliable than rechargeable cells that require a charging source. Bulk pricing on D-cell alkalines is still accessible at warehouse stores and some online suppliers, but it has already begun rising. A case of quality alkaline D-cells bought today at current pricing represents significant savings compared to what the same batteries will cost once they're only available through specialty or online channels. Most people have transitioned to rechargeable systems and stopped thinking about alkalines. That transition is exactly why bulk pricing still exists right now. Do not wait until the next power outage to discover the gap. The 13th product is one that affects a very specific but important slice of the population, and that slice is larger than most people assume. Talc-based body powder, not cornstarch formulations. Traditional talcum powder from the brands that have been producing it for decades. Litigation pressure has already pushed major manufacturers to either discontinue talc-based formulations entirely or to announce final production timelines. Remaining inventory is clearing out of retail channels. Once it is gone, the replacement options are all cornstarch-based products that perform meaningfully worse in human conditions. Cornstarch absorbs moisture up to a point, then clumps and cakes under heat and perspiration. Talc continues to perform in conditions where cornstarch fails. For anyone who uses this product for heat rash prevention, chafing protection, or moisture management during summer or in humid environments, the difference in performance is not subtle. It is the difference between functional relief in a product that stops working an hour into a hot day. Remaining talc-based powder is still sitting on drugstore shelves in some locations, but you have to check the ingredient label carefully because most newer packaging has already switched to talc-free formulations. Buy several bottles if you find the real thing. The 14th product on this list ties several themes together. It is not traumatic or exciting. It is one of those items that most people never think about until the moment they desperately need it. Specific seal and gasket kits for older model manual well pumps and hand-operated transfer pumps.
The manufacturers keeping legacy kits in production are quietly ending those lines as new model infrastructure becomes more profitable to support. The situation here is exactly what was described with the utility knife blades. A piece of equipment that works perfectly well, has worked for 20 or 30 years, and becomes completely non-functional the moment one small rubber component fails and cannot be replaced. For properties with manual backup water systems, this is not a hypothetical scenario, it is an eventually certain maintenance event. Agricultural supply and specialty well retailers still stock these kits for the most common pump models. The cost is trivial compared to what it costs to either fabricate a replacement or install a new pump system entirely. Find the model number of any manual pump on your property, order a complete seal kit, store it with the pump. This is the kind of preparation that costs almost nothing when done proactively and costs enormously when done reactively. Every single item on this list shares a common characteristic. They are all products that work reliably, serve a genuine need, and are disappearing not because of consumer abandonment, but because of decisions made at the corporate and regulatory level. The people who figure that out in advance pay current prices and maintain access. The people who figure it out afterward pay premiums and often cannot find stock at any price. The gap between those two outcomes is not luck. It is not extraordinary resources. It is attention. It is understanding how retail cycles and supply chains actually work and acting on that understanding before the window closes.
Here is what to do right now. Go through this list and identify which items are relevant to your life. Not every product applies to everyone, but at least 3 or 4 of these should trigger an immediate purchasing decision. Do it this week, not next week. Most of these are in their final weeks of mainstream availability. And while everyone else is scrambling to replace these things after they are already gone and paying 3 or 4 times the current price on secondary markets, you will have already handled it. The information existed, the stock existed, the price was reasonable. The only variable was whether someone acted on it in time. That is the entire game when it comes to supply chain preparedness. It is not about panic. It is not about fear. It is about pattern recognition and timing. Read the signals before the crowd does, act before the shelf empties, pay fair prices instead of crisis prices. Drop a comment right now and tell which product on this list is the one you are going to grab first, because it matters to know what lands for people watching this. The situations where these products matter most are not hypothetical. They're real events that happen to real households, and being ready for them is simply a decision. If this gave you value, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe to my channel so nothing like this gets missed. Next week, the focus shifts to the 7 survival tools that every preparedness channel tells you are essential, but are actually close to useless in a real emergency. Some of those takes are going to cause controversy, but the truth is what it is, and you do not want to be without that information.